KC2IRV back again. Haven't made a video in a while. Been pretty busy. I thought I'd make a short one about something I've been experimenting with. Just a little bit of a talk. I've been always interested in Qrp and tried to work Qrp as often as I could. But I've always wanted to take gear backpacking and camping. And I never had a radio I could do that comfortably with. And so I set my sights on the FT-817 and I purchased one. In really good shape, works great. And I've been experimenting with delta loops. With 18 gauge wire and something that would be fairly quick to set up that would be efficient and broadbanded and multi-banded as well. And so far I've made a mono band loop with a 75 ohm piece of coax as a matching stub on 20 meters. One thing that I saw was a tuner that I liked. And I was looking for a tuner for Qrp operation that wasn't too big and also wasn't too expensive. MFJ does have some Qrp tuners that have a meter in them as well. They're a little larger. But this one caught my eye. This Qrp Pocket Tuner. And it's a part number MFJ-9201. And this little tuner does, well, there was conflicting information on that. Some places say 100 watts, some places say 25 watts. I will err on the side of caution, being 25 watts. So, it's a very small tuner, as you can tell how big it is compared to my hand here. I think I might be zoomed in. Let me zoom out a little bit. Nope, it's zooming in. Okay, now we're good. Anyway, so it's fairly compact. It's got a switching inductor, and of course it's got its two capacitors for antenna tuning and transmitter tuning. So, and then just an antenna port, a transmitter port, a tune, and a bypass switch. Very simple. Very simple box. So I figured we'd take a look inside it and see how it goes. So let's take a look. So this is the tuner apart, and just had to take 4 screws out from each one of the corners here. It's this corner and that corner, just all 4 corners. Just a plastic, looks like a project box it's made in. Not much to this tuner. There's this inductor wound around a core. I'm not sure the core material. And it's just looks like they have a band switch in here that actually switches the inductance around. And then here are your variable capacitors for your antenna and transmitter loading. It's a very, very simple setup. And this tuner I purchased for about $56, and that included shipping. So, not much to go wrong here. Very field repairable, say if a wire breaks off or something like that. That's very nice. I actually like this. And not having an SWR meter is not a drawback, because the SWR meter in the Yaesu itself, in the 817, actually works very, very well. I've benched it against other SWR meters. So, you just put it back in its case. It feels pretty rugged. I mean, everything feels tight. You know, nothing feels that cheesy or chintzy. It's not meant to be wet. So I wouldn't use it in wet weather, and neither is the FT-817. So, but I would say this could take a couple kicks across the pavement and not have a problem. So there you go. The antenna that I'm now going to be making, I'm going to be making a second delta loop based on my findings. So far, I have found the delta loop that is in the apex down position being fed from the apex, which gives you a horizontal polarization with a moderately high angle of radiation seems to work extremely well. And I've experimented with that position and also with the apex up, fed from the bottom corner, which is a vertical polarization in a delta loop with a very low angle of radiation, and they say that is the best for DX, which makes sense because it's putting more of its energy out instead of up. So, but you can move the delta loop around in the way I designed it, the way I constructed this particular delta loop, so that it could be easily changed to different orientations to fit the conditions. So, one of the things that you need if you want a multi-banded delta loop is a 4-to-1 transformer. And that's what this is. This is a 4-to-1 transformer. This is not a Balun. Balun stands for balanced, unbalanced. You go from a balanced system to an unbalanced system. A balanced system being your antenna to an unbalanced system being your coaxial cable. This is not a Balun. This is a transformer. Could you connect coaxial cable to this? And will it work? Yes. It'll match. It'll radiate. But the one thing that you may have a problem with is energy on the outside of the shield of the coax. And that's because any form of single core 4-to-1 so-called Balun may do the job of transforming the actual impedance from say 200 ohms to 50 ohms, but does not cancel out the common mode energy. Now, I'm not going to get into real in-depth detail, but in order to have a proper system that does the impedance transformation and also cancels out the common mode energy to keep the energy off your coaxial cable that can cause possible interference, can cause squealing on the mic if you have too much energy coming back into the radio. It's also one of the reasons why a lot of people get RF into the shack. It's because they don't actually have a 1-to-1 Balun. And a true 1-to-1 Balun changes it from a balanced system to an unbalanced system, and it in so doing cancels out common mode currents. And once again, I said I'm not going to get into the specifics. There's actually someone who has done a far better job of explaining this. It's a YouTuber who goes by the name TRX Bench. That's Tango Radio X-Ray Bench. He has a 3-part video series on Baluns. And I thought about doing a video series on Baluns myself, on winding Baluns and stuff like that. But he has done a far better job than I could ever do. I'm a little bit of an impatient and sometimes I miss things. He's extremely thorough. I would encourage you to visit him on his YouTube channel. He's got a wealth of information. He's far better to relate things like that than I am. So I'm going to be using this with a separate core that has a 1-to-1 Balun wound on it together. And that will properly match, the antenna system to the radio. Or I should say the antenna system to the tuner to the radio. So I've tested this tuner out, by the way, on my current fan dipole at the house, and it works just as well as my my 941, my MFJ-941. It'll actually load the 40-20 meter fan dipole up easily on 80. Not going to radiate the best, but it loads it and it works. So it's actually a really neat little tuner. Very happy I got it. So the next thing I'm going to get into is, since we're going to be QRP, and I should say portable QRP when camping, the one thing that these Yaesus come with is they come with this battery pack. This is kind of the battery pack that's, I took this stuff off of it. There's this and there was this. and cut it down to this. It's nickel metal hydride cells. This is a 1400 milliamp hour battery pack. 1400 milliamp hours is not really enough to run the radio for a significant amount of time, in my opinion. So I'm doing two things. One, I stripped this battery pack. This battery pack is bad that I received with the radio. And I took this connector off of it. And this connector, I'm going to bring to a more common connector. And I'm doing one thing right now, which I ordered 300 milliamp hour lithium polymer cells off of eBay, which contain the charge and protection circuitry per cell. And I'm going to wire them in series, and that's going to give me the proper voltage for my 817. This is my 817, and they're going to fit right inside this battery compartment. I can get it open. Come on. This battery compartment is not the easiest thing to open. There we go. Fit right in there. Now, if I have room on this door, I'm going to put this jack right here. It's a Canon connector, they call it. So that I can charge those cells externally. And hopefully I can find a place to fit it. It's a little large. I may have to go with something possibly smaller. Those cells, I've measured them and they'll fit right inside this unit. No problem. That will give me 3000 milliamp hours, you know, a hair over double the capacity. And I think 2 of those over the course of a weekend would work very, very well. I'm also going to bring probably a 5 amp hour sealed lead acid as well, just as backup. But I'm going to charge the lithium polymers with this guy. Let me move the radio out of the way. Come over here. This is from SkyRC. These run about $50-ish. And it's, for the most part, a universal charger. You power it with pretty much 12 volts. So this is what, 11 to 18. And actually power it with a 5 amp pack, a power pack. And it'll charge lithium polymers, lithium ions, sealed lead acid, lithium iron phosphate batteries. You can set the current, you can set the time. It'll do balance charging as well. It comes with a bunch of different adapters for different connectors to different batteries. It even comes with a set of alligator clips as well. And once again, get them on Amazon, and it works very well. I've been using this to charge my lithium polymer battery in my little ammo can node, all-star node, which I made in the previous video. So yeah, hopefully, and those lithium polymers are actually going to be a lot lighter than these. These have got a little bit of heft to them. So these are, you know, destined for the junk pile. I'm keeping these around simply as a reference for things that will fit in the radio for different things. It's kind of a, you know, a little bit of a yardstick for that. So that's why these are going to stay around. I didn't completely destroy or throw the pack away. So anyway, one other thing, for winding Baluns, my preferred wire is this stuff. It's a solid copper 18 gauge enameled wire. I like it because it's easy to wind around the core and it holds tight to the core. Another type of wire that you can use that's recommended is Ptfe wire. Mainly because if you're running a lot of power through it, it won't burn. This is rated to 155C, which I don't know what that comes to in Fahrenheit. I can look it up quick. Let's see. let's do it. Let's ask the Oracle, as I say, which I ask Google. So 155 C2F. So that equals 311 degrees in Fahrenheit. So if you were running a lot of power through this, you would most likely burn the enamel off. But I don't normally run any more than, 100 to 200 watts. So these cores don't get very hot. But if you were going to run something, I would say anywhere above 300 watts, I would recommend using Ptfe wire. So, but since this is QRP and is going to be probably no more than 20 watts maximum, I have no problem with this. So if I were going to be using it on a high power station, I would definitely go with the Ptfe wire. So, but yeah, this is that'd be quite a little project. I'm gonna make a video later on outside of the Delta loop I have up, and we will see how it performs. Make a few contacts. Hopefully, I've made a few contacts on QRP. QRP is definitely a band. It's definitely a, how would you describe it, in operating mode? What would be the best way to describe it? A way of operating, I guess you could say. Method of operating. That does not lend itself well to sideband or voice modes in general. The most successful QRPers are the ones that are using Morse code, and most of the QRP rigs purpose-built, like those, like the Mountain Topper and some of the MFJ QRP radios, and a few others. I can't think of them off the top of my head. Are CW only, and because CW only lends itself to that weak signal QSO. Same thing goes for digital modes as well, for very weak signals. And when you can hear the code, but you wouldn't be able to decode what somebody was saying through voice. So I'm working heavily on my code to get that up to snuff. I'm having a lot of fun. I have to say. There's a program out there that I learned from another YouTuber, and I'll put a link to his channel as well. And he pretty much specializes in QRP, does an excellent job. He recommended a program called Morris Runner. And this program is meant to increase your code speed, and it simulates a CW contest. What I like about it is it's very interactive. It's not just the computer spitting out letters at you and you writing them down and then seeing if they're right. It actually simulates QSOs and pileups and QRM and QRN and QSB and lids, even lids. And it forces you to think and to interact with the program. So, I'll give you an example. The program will, you have to copy down a call, and then you have to send this call back to the operator in the virtual operator that sent it to you in the program. And if you get the call wrong, they'll let you know. And then you have to send the call right. And then sometimes there'll be information that you're giving, you need to give them that they may not copy, and then they'll ask you to send it again. And you have to listen for that, and then you have to send it again. And once they get that correct, then you move on to the next QSO, just like a real contest. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun than any other Morse code training program that I've seen out there. I mean, I haven't tested a whole lot. I have not the whole myriad, but so far this one's been a blast, and I really enjoy using it. So it's called Morris Runner, I believe I mentioned. If you want to get your code speed up and have fun doing it, that would be the program I would recommend. It's a free download. I would definitely, I've donated a couple bucks to them for the program. And I would recommend anybody that uses the program enjoys it do that as well, because it takes time, money, and effort to write software, and this is a very nice piece of software. So, so yeah, I will really want to get my code up to snuff so I can be more successful at QRP. And I like to do things because they're hard, not because they're easy. So doesn't mean I'm going to abandon voice on QRP, which, on the contrary, I want to try as hard as I can to do different things and to be unlimited power. And one of the things I want to be getting into is running solar power on this guy. I want to get a solar setup that's light enough so that I can charge my batteries and operate during the day and not have it be a burden to carry. So, though I don't know if I'll get my wish, but I'm certainly going to strive to achieve it. Anyway, this little radio, by the way, has a very hot little receiver in it. Excellent receiver, from what I understand. I installed off of eBay. Was it off of eBay? No, it was off of Amazon, actually. The TCXO option. There's a low-cost TCXO option for this. Normally the Yaesu one's like $150, in that ballpark. Someone had a TCXO unit for $25 for this unit. The one that I purchased sucks. Came off frequency by 150 hertz from the factory. And the other problem is that, here, I'll show you the one that came out of the radio as a comparison. I still have the one in the radio. The TCXO in the radio, I adjusted it, but it still is unsatisfactory, so I'm going to put this one back in. This is the original master oscillator that comes out of the rig. And it's got an adjustment on it. The way it installs in the radio is it installs in the radio this way. In fact, in the radio it installs right over here. So, actually, we're all friends here. Let me take that unit out and I will show you. It's not a hard thing to do. And I'm going to experiment with other TCXOs. So let's take it out. Let's give it a shot here. Radio's not very hard to open either. There's not a whole lot to it. Very compact little radio. Speaker on it surprisingly loud, I have to say. So it's got a couple of screws here. I want to get the peg leg kit for this because it doesn't stand, it kind of sits flat on the desk. It's not very easy to see the screen that way. So let's get all these screws out. Oh, there's another one. Oh. There we are. And lift the case up. You don't want to lift, force it, because what happens is if it suddenly pops off, you can rip this wire out for the speaker. There's the TCXO unit that I installed right there. Now, as you can see, the crystal is facing the bottom of the board. So to adjust this on frequency, I had to take it out, make an adjustment, put it back in, wait for it to settle in, read it, and I was just like, no, this is ridiculous. So this simply, actually, let me pry on it a little bit. You don't want to bend these pins too much. So I try not to, I don't want to manhandle it out. I just want to push up on it a little bit. Should be, oh, there it goes, pops right out. So Yeah, there's the adjustment hole for this. So yeah, now I don't recommend this. You'll see these listed on eBay or Amazon for like 25, 30 bucks, 22 bucks, whatever. I don't recommend this at all. And it's probably because the TCXO is junk. What I'd like to do is find a TCXO unit that actually is worth a crap and put it in here for cold weather applications and stuff like that. So with that, we're going to put in the original unit, the original crystal unit. So, and I also have my doubts about the unit. Oh, this actually goes, I'm sorry, this actually goes in the other way. Or does it? Oh no, I'm right, I was right. I'm sorry, I forgot, I didn't see the holes. There we go. Yep. What to say? I thought it went in the other way. There you go. See? It actually faces up, so you can adjust it in the radio. For crying out loud. So, yeah. So, I'm not impressed with the unit that I purchased. And it's not a big deal. And like I was saying before, I don't know if it's 100%, you know, something that's 100% needed. Because once the radio warms up, say to your body temperature or under operation, I would imagine this would settle in even in pretty cold conditions. But I don't know. I saw it was a cheap option. I thought I would take a chance on it, and yeah, I pretty much lost 25 bucks. The board here still is relevant, so I might be able to find a TCXO unit that is worth a crap and put it and shoehorn it onto this board. So I don't know. We'll see. This thing stinks. So nothing I'm going to do about it now. So I can just put the screws back in to my Yaesu. And not all the screws are the same, as I found out. Yeah, this thing comes apart pretty easily. Why isn't my screw going in? Is there a hole off center? Yeah, it is. Ah, the face pushes forward a little bit. Generally with screws, I have a tendency when I go to put them in to go backwards first and to listen for a little click. And I'll demonstrate that here. Like I'll put it in, oh, I heard a click, then I'll go forward. That usually means it threaded. It usually means the screw is now in the threads. So, to prevent cross-threading. I don't tighten these things down like crazy, too. Some people go nuts. They tighten the screws down like they're Hercules. I don't know why, but they do. And sometimes you see these, you try to take these screws out, and you know they're way tighter than they ever needed to be. So, you also see a screwdriver I'm putting these things in with and taking them out with too. Is this? You know, I'm not using, you know, a big long-handled, you know, screwdriver for taking screws out of your dishwasher or screws out of your car. You know, the right tool for the right job. You know, it doesn't take a half-decent set of hand tools if you're going to do some fine work will keep you from breaking a lot of stuff. And I do mean a lot of stuff. I've seen so many people bust stuff all. Oh, my thing stopped. So anyway, I was just talking about people boogering up circuit boards and stuff with the wrong tools, and so right tool for the right job. That's what I say. So let's especially for SMD work, for surface mount work. Yeah, right tools. I have some SMD tools. I also have the skills for it as well. That's something that I think a lot of amateurs should try to get some skill in, is SMD soldering, because not only will it help you with anything wrong with radios that are using SMD components, which is pretty much everything made in the last 20 years for the most part, and it will increase your soldering skills overall. So, and you know, some people for some reason still think, you know, you crank the soldering iron up to 900 degrees and, you know, try to solder and something, and then you wonder why all the parts or all the plastic around whatever you're trying to solder is melted. So, anyway, this devolved into kind of a little rant. I will leave it here for now. One last note, simulcast is going extremely well. I've been experimenting with the transmit launch delay, and it does work, and it works exactly as it should. It's adjustable in 200 nanosecond increments, and remembering off the top of my head, if you remember that, radio waves propagate through the atmosphere at about 5.2 microseconds per statute mile. So I actually had to adjust mine by 2 microseconds to get rid of a really nasty out of phase area in the overlap where it was tearing quite badly. So I'm gonna do a separate video on that. So the simulcast has been going swimmingly, as they would say. Just ordered the Ubiquiti. I ordered the Ubiquiti Air Grid High Power 27 dBi 5 gigahertz links to link to my second site, and I have nearly all the components for that. Now it's just the will to put the stuff up, and I also need to do some tower work in order to get the links up. So I'm going to have some help with that, definitely. So that's all for now, and I'll catch you guys later. 73s.